Welcome back to the next episode of the Reinventing Real Estate podcast, brought to you alongside PBSA and BTR News. And today we're honoured to have David Hirschfield, who has been elevated to Group Managing Director of Galliard Homes, one of the most well-known, most recognised developers across the UK, with over 33 years of history. And we're very lucky, David, to have you joining us. David is not only incredibly senior in what he does and incredibly influential within the Galliard business, but he's also a really good guy and knows his stuff inside out. So David, thanks so much for joining us today.
I want to go right back to the beginning and really talk about, I suppose, your journey into the industry. What's obviously really interesting is that you had very much a legal background and then transitioned into real estate. And I'd love to kind of hear what initially drew you and excited you about the sector.
Okay, thank you very much for having me, guys.
Straight in, David.
Yeah. There are a few points there. I mean, taking it right the way back when I was at university, I studied history at university, and law always seemed like the correct segue to go down. And I sort of applied for law firms at the time. I think I applied for some banks at the time. The only bank really interested was Lehman Brothers, so I thought it was probably best at that time to go down the law route. Probably hindsight showed that it was best to go down the law route at that time. I started my training contract with Linklaters in 2010, and then after Linklaters I went into Nabarro's. And Nabarro at that time, which is now CMS, was a really great firm for real estate and corporate real estate, and I worked with really fantastic real estate clients, and that was my exposure very much to the market. From British Land, Hammerson, to the likes of Frogmore, who are big joint venture partners of Galliard even today, and actually shareholders in Galliard, to Galliard itself, which did some work at Nabarro. And I really enjoyed the law, and I still do, but I was always really excited about real estate and actually being client side, and what excited me most was the commercial decisions and the commercial sort of acumen with buying and selling and financing. And I always, when I was on the law, it was as an advisor, I was learning and it was great, but I was always quite desperate to be on the other side.
Yeah.
And I was sort of a number of years there trying to work out when's the best time, how do I do it, and sort of timing and fortune and everything sort of played its role to moving to Galliard at the end of sort of 2014 to go there as their sort of first in-house legal counsel. So it was very much something where when I went into law, I always thought in my head, I'm going to make a segue. I just at that time didn't really know how I was going to do it.
That's really interesting. And I suppose diving further into that, once you're at Galliard, using your expertise from a legal perspective to then get to where you are today, how did that evolve when you were there?
So, I mean, look, I think really in any industry, I mean, I was the first lawyer actually to work at Galliard, and by virtue of that, you're involved in everything, right?
Yeah, that's a great point.
And by virtue of being in everything, you're at the forefront of decision making and dealing with banks and dealing with joint venture partners. And when you're buying, you're the one negotiating. When you're selling, the one negotiating. So it was by virtue of being the only lawyer there and effectively running the deals from the buy side, the sell side to the financing. Every month you're there, every week you're there, every year you're there, whatever it is, you're just picking up, like through osmosis, really just more and more knowledge and working with the team at Galliard, and especially the founder and current non-exec chairman Stephen Conway, you just learn and you pick up and sort of you absorb, and I think that's really what it is, and been there now sort of 10 or 11 years now, and I always found that every deal was exciting, and every deal I learned more about myself, and you then take that sort of legal background that you have, the commercial acumen which you're gaining, and fusing it together, and hopefully it helps, and hopefully it's seen to the business as an added benefit. And I always think lawyers, and I always say this to sort of friends of mine who are in the law and thinking, oh, maybe I want to get out, or I want to go to be a general counsel, or I want to do something else. And I always say, actually, as a lawyer, and once you've been in a law firm for so many years, you know a lot more than you think you know. And many lawyers, I think, get pigeonholed very much in their, I'm a real estate lawyer, so I just do real estate. I'm a finance, I just do finance. I'm a construction, I just do construction. You actually know a lot more than you think you do. And it's only when you sort of challenge yourself and you get in a hot seat where a myriad of different questions can come to you, you actually can take a sort of a step back and think, oh, actually I can help, I can assist here, or I know who to ask and provide to the business the right answer where you're not so certain yourself, but you have the tools to get the answer that's needed. And then when those questions come again, you know it. And it's very rare that you get a question, that hasn't been done before by someone, not necessarily by you, but by someone. So if you know where to go to, you can get the right answers, you can help the business and help it grow.
It's an interesting, that one, isn't it? Because I never thought before about the fact that, like you said, lawyers are in every part of every deal.
Yeah, so
and if
true.
you're a general counsel at a developer, or if you're a lawyer that's just dealing with multiple transactions, actually the skill set that you've got is so commercial and so at the sort of cutting edge of it all, because you're the one that's actively negotiating the points.
Yeah.
And often negotiating the points with the other lawyers that sometimes...
But you also learn the points to negotiate, right? I've seen so many lawyers, they're negotiating on behalf of clients, and really both clients don't
really care.
It's immaterial,
Yeah.
right? It's so immaterial to the actual deal. What you learn from actually being client side is, okay, what's actually important to the client? What are the key drivers for something, whatever you're doing, buying. It's always relate to buying, selling, refinancing. They're the three kind of big ticket items, and you learn where it's fine to concede because it actually is immaterial, and where you've really got to push because that is going to make a difference to you either financially or the liability of the company or whatever it is. It actually has commercial sense to drive that point forward. And once you learn what the important bits are, then it's just it's good. It's repeat, and you just get better and better, and it's it's fun, and that's ultimately what it is. It's fun, and if you don't enjoy what you're doing, then it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
So I do feel lucky in the sense that what we do, it's hard work, but it's fun, and it's working with good people, good partners, and good agents. So it just right. But it makes it makes it all fun.
Yeah, it's important the people you work with.
I think it's amazing as well on the development side because, and for us, because I think when you're working on a project which is a development and it gets funded and then 2.5 years later it's open, I think there's something really incredible about that.
Yeah, being part of that journey.
Had tangible impact on something, and you can go around and see how people are interacting with it or living in it or enjoying it. And
I totally agree. I mean, it's that's actually, you just touched on it. That's why I love real estate. It's that tangible. It's like I can see what we're doing. I can see that we're building homes for people. We're building communities for people. We are, actually part of like an ecosystem which is needed.
Yeah.
And there are many other jobs out there where they're doing whatever they're doing, fantastic work, but they don't see the end product. And I think the fact that we can go and see it, and then when you've done one like a great development, you showcase that because that's what someone wants to see for the next development and the next development. And that's something at Galliard we've really been proud of, like the amount of regeneration sites that we've developed from Canary Wharf, the amount we've done there, to moving out now to Birmingham, what we're doing in Bristol. We are taking sites right now and throughout the country, which predominantly was London and the southeast, but now we're looking all across the country where we can redevelop, where we can repurpose shopping centres that that historically were trading out of their skins, probably 15 years ago, but then with the macro environment that we're in now, with Amazon and what happened with post-COVID, the shopping centre and the retail sector isn't clearly what it was. And these, we've got 3 shopping centres right now up and down the country, actually 4 shopping centres that we're looking to repurpose for BTR or for student, and bringing that sort of vibrancy back to what's otherwise derelict and desolate shopping centres.
Yeah,
so it's exciting times.
Definitely. I suppose having been in the industry, what do you think the best piece of advice you were ever given was? Something you kind of hold with you to this day?
I think the best in the real estate industry is a really small industry, and once you're in it, everyone knows everyone, which is good, but it's building up your reputation. Don't always do something which you think is fair to other people. Don't go against your word. If you've said something, you honour it. That certainly is a business which we always that actually pervades throughout our business, right from the very top, from our founder, is that when you say you're going to do something, you do it. Because it can take years and years to build up a reputation and minutes for it to fall, and I think that is, whether I was told that or whether I've just seen that, I'm not quite sure, but that I would say is, and I don't think that isn't just relevant for just real estate. I think that's relevant for whatever you do, whatever industry, whatever personal things you do in your life, is treat others the way you want to be treated, and that's something which I think has got sort of stood the test of time, not just with my career, but actually way back before my career, like with Galliard. I've been going 30 years, right? And that's, you don't go that length of time without having a reputation of doing what you say you're going to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the key, isn't it? And I think what I was speaking to Ellie, who's obviously sort of your collaborator to a lot of an extent on Galliard moving forward and what you're doing and sort of pushing it as much as possible now. And he was saying, and what really struck me is, you deal with assets and developments and projects that are all the way from the sort of mid-market all the way up to 2,500 a square foot and more. And the strength of the Galliard brand that sits across all of those kind of asset classes, whether it's residential, student, build to rent, is so powerful, not only from a B2B perspective, but also from a B2C perspective, and sort of selling into that marketplace. And I'm sort of wondering how Galliard has managed to achieve that type of format, because a lot of the developers out there haven't been able to do that, and they've had to create different brands for different sort of subcategories.
So look, it's not easy, and don't get me wrong. If we're buying and we're developing a site in Shoreditch or Marylebone, it will be a different level of quality to a site which we're building in Luton.
Yeah.
Right? But that doesn't mean to say that the site in Luton is going to be of a poor standard. It will always be of a standard which is a cut above anything else in that area, and a standard which we're happy to put our name and our brand to. And I think that's really important in sort of the test of time of Galliard. And how we do it is, we don't buy every site that we see, because we can't. Because often to put that kind of brand standard in and to make this we're dealing with people's homes, and that's fundamental. And when you're dealing with something so personal, it has to. We feel it always has to be right, and it means that there's a cost involved in that. So when I say we don't buy every site we see, there are plenty of other developers that will sort of come in and say, right, my build cost is going to be, I don't know, £100 a foot lighter, and that's how they can up their purchase price. Whereas we won't do that. We will. It goes back to, we know what it's going to cost to build, and once we plug in to our levels, and once we plug in our numbers, that's what we can pay for the land. It works, and it sometimes it means there are sites we forego on, and invariably, if someone has their numbers wrong or too cheap, they do sometimes come back, which is quite interesting to see.
Yeah, that happens a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
These days in particular. But you've also got the sort of vertically integrated side of life. So you've got the construction business, you've got the development business, then ultimately the sales business when it comes to the residential.
Yeah.
And how did that kind of all form, and now that it's all progressed and you've got this different strategy in PBSA and BTR and sort of single family housing, how is that kind of helping to, I suppose, amplify the growth and get funders comfortable?
So that's probably two questions. Is how did it form? Well, it formed organically. I mean, it's the business started in 1992 as a traditional propco, identifying sites for redevelopment and then utilising third parties to carry out the construction works. And it was sort of, as Galliard evolved and became bigger and with more sites, it became the logical move was to actually start taking much of the construction in-house, and that's how Galliard Construction was born. And then the more that Galliard did, the more sort of brand recognition it evolved, and the Galliard sales machine started coming up. So that was very much an organic process rather than just right from a standing start, which is always the right, I think, the sort of the right thing. And now we are we're in a fortunate position where we are vertically integrated. We do the construction. We do have our own construction team. We do have our own sales and marketing team. We do have our own lettings and property management team. So we always sort of view ourselves as that sort of one-stop shop. And how it's helping us now in the market is we are utilising this one-stop shop to deliver, not just for ourselves, but for many of our sort of trusted partners. We've done forward funding deals with the likes of Sable Capital, which is backed by Mitsubishi Estates. We've done forward fundings for Heimstad and for Greystar, for these huge BTR platforms that need a trusted delivery partner, that they know when they enter into a development agreement with us, they will get those end units, and they will get them in the day, in the time frame that's set out. So we are looking for sites which we buy and then we develop for others, and we buy and we sell and to develop for others, or where other parties have bought the sites and they need a development partner and someone to build out the schemes for them and manage that whole process and give them that assurity that they will have a quality product at the end of the day. So that's how we see further growth to the Galliard business, with doing more and more partnerships like that.
And that's really interesting because that's a kind of new strategy for you guys.
It's new in the sense that where we historically have always either owned a site, and then if we've done a forward fund, we would either sell part or all of the site to a BTR operator, and then simultaneously when we sell the site, we'll enter into a contract to build it out for them. What's maybe different is we're seeing opportunities where we haven't bought the site, but we're being brought in as the development manager, but also the delivery partner for external third parties, and we're very happy, to look at that and do that. And our partners like it because they have that assurity that it's going to be delivered and it's going to have the brand recognition. And we we sort of utilise our Galliard construction and our sort of our market supply chain to hopefully get decent pricings for them.
That's a powerful proposition, really, especially at the moment where you've got such complexity when it comes to the gateway process and the construction process, and
it's so hard.
Everything else.
It's invaluable
really
having
hard.
that experience, but also that reputation, like you say, that people can actually really get behind, especially from a forward funding point of view.
And it's such a harder climate now, too, as you sort of touched on. The gateways, the building working alongside the Building Safety Act, it's taken a number of players out the market, and rightly so. Like, you have to really be geared up for it.
Yeah.
And it's something which we're becoming experts in because we have to. Right, we're doing it for ourselves, so why not add another string to our bow and deliver for others as well, in a challenging environment. And there's no doubt we are in a challenging environment.
I think on that, and it is challenging environment, as I think we all know, and it has been over the past few years. But Galliard has really doubled down on regeneration, and like you were talking about Birmingham, like Soho Loop, for example, and Bristol, and sort of identifying these master plans where actually not only are you just plugging into something that's already there, but you're creating this world unto itself and changing the landscape of the UK, residential market, build to rent market, PBSA market, and injecting lots of positivity into local communities. And I sort of wonder, that's quite a bold move, especially at the moment. And how have you managed to kind of create that strategy and worked with your internal team to become sort of such specialists in bringing those kind of larger master plans forward?
That's always been the blueprint of Galliard.
Yeah.
The blueprint at Galliard has always been, as we sort of said before, is regeneration, is taking a site which is underperforming in either just because of its locality or because of the use of it previously, and it of being of such a scale that demands more than just housing or PBSA or whatever. It demands other uses. It demands experiential offerings that go along with it. It demands a school to be built. It demands playgrounds. It's a whole community aspect that is what excites us. I mean, that's, you mentioned Soho Loop in Birmingham. That was a regeneration of, it's a whole sort of campus, 700 unit campus, which we did for Heimstad. And we've got, sites, where we're doing a whole new sort of similar, but to a smaller scale, but 160 odd houses, which we're at the moment building for packaged living in Ipswich, and again that's sort of a regeneration of that area, and that's what excites us. That's what I think sets us apart. Those are the type of deals that we're looking for.
Yeah.
I suppose there aren't too many others that can deliver in such a way where, so it eliminates competition. Obviously, there are of course a handful of others that can deliver, similar, but it is a narrower pool, and it's, I think, and it's entrepreneurial, which is what Galliard is. So we're a business where we don't sort of say we can only build in Zone 1 London or whatever it is. We'll identify opportunities UK-wide that we think makes sense, that we think makes commercial sense, and where we can add value, and that's sort of why we're sort of getting our footprint really across the country at the moment, and we'll be doing more of it.
So I was also thinking about kind of Galliard and your partnership model, and how you're pursuing partnerships and have done for years with, the likes of Apsley and Citrus and various others. And I think it's kind of interesting for people to know, like, what makes a good partner, not only for yourselves but just generally, and sort of how does that all work, and
Well,
a lot of your partnerships, you've done multiple deals together over many, many years.
That's a really good question. So Galliard's model has always been in partnership with trusted partners who we really call friends, and that is probably what it is. We work with a lot of the time with friends of the business who we implicitly trust, and we don't just look at them. We look at them as an extension of our business, and that is why the partnership model has sort of survived the test of time and has been going for really since the inception of Galliard. So, wow, what makes a good partner is honesty, loyalty, and trust. Sort of really what I came back to. One of your first questions was, what do you think is the most important thing in the real estate business? And it's all of that. And if you don't have that, then you're not going to have great partners, or you're not going to be a great partner to them. And if you are that, then you're going to be a great partner to them, and they're going to keep coming back and understand that, look, not every deal goes right. And that's certainly the case at the moment in the environment that we're in right now. And there are so many macro events that we can't control: construction cost inflation, or interest rates, or whatever it is, or war in Ukraine. And there are so many factors that we can't control. But if you're always honest and just do the best you possibly can and utilize the pool of resource which you have available to you, then you'll be the best partner, and your partners will be recurring. And that's sort of historic partners, and then partnerships going forward. We've started probably in the last sort of 5-6 years doing a lot more institutional partners now. And it's treating those institutions with the same respect that you would treat a high net worth partner of yours. And we're lucky that we have, done some really, if you touched on Soho Loop, that 700 unit scheme with which we own the site in partnership with Apsley House Capital, and then we did a forward funding deal with Heimstaden. That was a superb sort of symbiotic relationship where we worked with them, we collaborated with them, we built new environment with them, and that's how we treat all of our partners. If it's a small scheme to a 700 unit, massive scheme, it everyone, as long as you're open and in collaboration, then that's the best way to be. And partnerships is what we are open. That's what we do. We're always looking for good partners, for good sources of capital. Now, historically, sort of the past sort of 5 years, there's been a real dearth of equity that's sort of been in the market, which has made things really hard. And now we're starting to see some green shoots and some money coming back. And those are the partners that we're working with, and to explore new relationships or ongoing relationships. Now we feel like the mood music is coming back to the UK.
In terms of sort of looking at now versus over the next few years, and I think what's obviously been really popular over the past few years is joint ventures and working side by side with capital, and putting some equity into deals together and sort of pooling resources and ultimately going on the journey. But are you kind of seeing that forward funding type arrangement is coming back? And I suppose you're most qualified in a lot of ways because you've done so many forward funding deals over the past few years, especially in the BTR sector. And that core capital, from our perspective, is slower, but starting to show signs of really emerging again on bidding on projects that certainly we're marketing. But useful to sort of understand from your perspective on the evolution of the structure and whether you think forward funding will be back totally, or that the joint venture structure is here to stay.
I think in a nil interest rate environment, forward funding, that was, we were awash with forward funding.
Yeah.
Right. And you sort of had, in that environment, you had options. You had forward funding, or you had selling to retail investors because of the interest rate environment. Obviously, as we've now moved into a different world, and it's hopefully slightly coming. We do believe it is coming down, and coming down in the right way, not being slashed. I think it is good in the way that interest rates forecasted are coming down for a 5-year period, but we're not seeing an interest rate cut even today. We're not seeing an interest rate cut every time there's an opportunity, and we welcome that. We think it'll be too soon and too inflationary heavy to just keep doing it. So I think that is sensible. But as we started seeing the interest rates go up to levels that we hadn't seen for a long time, the forward funding, the retail market got very, very difficult, of course, and then so's the forward funding market. There hasn't been too many options in the forward funding market. There's been a few, and we've worked with really, really good partners to get a few away, and I think we've done really well in the past couple of years. But that market has softened, as I'm sure you're well aware, but it is now starting to come back. Not to the levels I would say it was 5 years ago, but it is starting to come back. And combined with that, we're seeing still lots of good sort of forward commitment opportunities. And where you've got forward commit opportunities, you've then got to go and service the third party debt yourselves. And the lending market's still okay. It's still good, right? And if you're a trusted borrower with a good reputation, with a good history and a good track record, we're seeing banks have been excellent to us, and we always it's the same thing as partners. Banks are our partners as well, and we like to use the same ones. Our trusted banks, the people that we know, that we can work with in all sorts of times, the good times and the harder times. That they've been really good and supportive to us. So the forward funding market is there. It's not there what it used to be, but there are different avenues with forward commits that we're looking to explore. And the funds who either were doing these forward commits or were doing these forward funds and now doing forward commits, they're there because I always sort of say this, and I've certainly seen it in the past sort of 6 or 7 years, that residential as a subsector asset class of the real estate industry is the best hedge against inflation. Whatever happens, people will always need to live. You can't say the same about a commercial office,
so
right?
True.
They'll find alternatives, and people might not be able to go and buy to the levels that they used to be able to go and buy before. So if they're not, then you're going to see them rent, and that's where the BTR market has really had its time in the sort of the past 8 to 10 years of constant rental year-on-year growth. As it's become harder to buy, people have to rent, so the demand for rent increases, and so is the rent levels. So we've been a beneficiary of it, but we tactically been a beneficiary of it. We've always seen that this is our sector, this is our asset class, and it doesn't need to be for sale. It can be for rent. It could be PBSA. It could be hotel. It could be an asset where people live or stay.
Yeah.
We've always seen as resilient and something which we want to continue to grow.
Well, they're all sort of blending into one in the sense of developers of PBSA are looking at BTR and co-living, and developers of BTR are looking at student and co-living the other way. And I think that's quite exciting because it means that we're seeing that diversity of offering and diversity of different product as well. Whereas, in student at the moment, we've got the high end, the medium, the sort of more accessible, affordable. And we're sort of seeing that more and more on the BTR side, and co-living is probably a little bit behind in the sense of we've got a product, but the differentiation of that product, I think, is quite exciting to see how that will evolve. But also what really fascinates me is what you were saying the other day, that the perceived alternative, which was always like the residential sectors, are now the mainstream, and actually what's alternative is the former mainstream sectors, like the retail sector, like offices to some extent, like industrial to some extent. So the residential sectors, as you say, is everyone's always going to live somewhere.
It's robust. You know, you might not get the peaks that we saw a couple of years ago in the industrial market, right? And now we're seeing the same kind of peaks in the data center market, right? But what you will get is it's a constant necessity for people.
Yeah.
And certainly, you know, there is, you know, clearly this government the government housing shortage of homes, and we want to be there to help deliver. And we think we're well placed.
I think that idea of being, you know, agile across the different living sectors, actually just looking at the living sectors as, you know, operational real estate, you know, is a fantastic approach to have, because then, as you say, as the markets shift and, you know, there might be a blip in you know, student occupancy, or, you know, BTR might be harder to make stack, and then you've got co-living, and then you've got, you know, so it's really about being responsive and agile. It seems like, you know, you guys are amazing at that.
Well, we try. I mean, I think that the secret, which is not a big secret, is buying the right locations where you truly think people want to live, and it doesn't always work, but it usually is the recipe for success, and that's what we've done. So when we've identified student schemes, you know, we're no specialist student operators ourselves, right? But we understand locality. We understand where's the university, where do people really want to live.
Yeah.
What will be the, you know, come what may, if the student market has a dip, will our place, you know, will our site still be the one or one of the ones that you'd want to go to? So that's, you know, that's sort of key for us. So within the living sector, and it could be at a high end, as I sort of said, in Marylebone, or it could be somewhere, you know, somewhere you know, further out. But that further out place will still have a locality to a high street, or it will have a locality to a train station, and you can get into central London, or you can get into Birmingham, or you can get wherever you can. It has that transport accessibility that the demographics of the people that you're targeting want to live where you have bought, rather than sort of buying somewhere a little bit off key. And that little bit off key will work in a booming market where the world's awash with money, and, you know, that will be fine. But if you're rigid in, you know, in locations, then we've always seen that sort of stand the test of time.
Obviously, the property industry is changing quite a lot, and especially in your new sort of role, to some extent, you've always been obviously very senior at Galliard and always sort of pushed the envelope when it comes to change and being at the forefront of the industry. But how do you think the sort of industry is going to evolve over the next few years with technology, with artificial intelligence, with, you know, everything that's happening? And
well, it will definitely evolve. There's no doubt about it. AI is wild. It's here to stay, and I think there are so many operational aspects of a business that will change because of AI, and it would actually just be enhanced. There are so many. I don't think AI is going to take over jobs, but I think too many jobs. But I think what it's going to do is going to assist in day-to-day tasks. People are going to become much more efficient in analysing where you want to buy, analysing what the rents are, analysing what the prices are, the pound per square foot, which about all that kind of data, which takes researchers time. They'll be able to quickly sift through it, you know, and AI will help. Even, you know, we're now seeing, just in terms of just looking at sites and understanding what might be the problems with sites before you even buy. AI can scrape that data very quickly from all the, you know, the various searches, from a land registry search, highway search, contamination search, whatever it is. There are tools out there that can kind of give you an Experian offering as to, you know, what the red flags are before you even start spending money on DD. So
amazing.
I think it's how it's understanding that AI is, as I sort of started to say, it's definitely here. It's only going to get bigger, and it's, you know, we've got to be really best placed and understand how to use it. and use it to our advantage. And we're trying, we're starting to, and we're no experts, but that's definitely something which we identify as a business that we need to be doing more, and organically we will be doing more.
It's an exciting time, and you're absolutely right in saying that it's about actually making people more efficient and
exactly
freeing up time, like you say, for things that are really important, like, you know, relationships and things like that. So definitely think it's exciting, and just learning the right ways, because I think we're at the tip of the iceberg, right? We don't actually know the extent to which it can help us quite yet.
Yeah.
But, you know, every day we're kind of learning and evolving.
Every day I'm seeing a new product out there that I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what if I learn how to use that? This is going to be crazy, right? And in time, probably in a few years, there'll be so many AI systems that will just support us with what we're doing now.
Yeah.
It will just become in every, part of everyday life. Whereas now it is all new, and we're just learning how to use things. But it is definitely growing. It's here to stay, and we as a business are embracing it.
Brilliant.
And what are you excited about over the next few years personally, in terms of, you've got Galliard, and Galliard shows no signs of slowing down, but what are you excited about in terms of pursuing in your creativity and your vision? And
don't fix what's not broken.
Yeah.
Like we have Galliard's been going really well for the past 30 or so years because of who we are and the entrepreneurial type of vision that we are, the ethos that surrounds, like the ethos that pervades and surrounds the company, and the warm and collegiate atmosphere. So all of that is why I've been at Galliard for the past sort of 11 years, right? So there's so much at Galliard that there's absolutely there's no need to change. It's just to build on,
That's true.
and build on existing relationships which we have. Is to create new relationships which just come again organically through being in the right place at the right time and sitting in the right chair and being in the right meeting, whatever it is, that things organically happen, and that's what I'm really excited for. We're at a time in the market which is a tough time, and there's no one can make any bones about it. We are living in a for us a high interest rate, inflationary, bit of an unpredictable market, and it's now just about identifying the right opportunities and making sure that you are buying the right sites, and there's you can't have too much margin for error. So it's and that's what excites us, finding new sites and working with new partners and building and those sites to be regeneration, right? It's building places and homes and communities, and adding to what is a fantastic business already there, and utilising that brand to continue growing.
Absolutely. So this leads on nicely. We're kind of rounding off with some future-facing questions. But, having had such an impactful career in the industry and obviously continuing to do so, what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to be remembered in the industry?
I don't know.
Got quite a few more years.
I don't know. I definitely am nowhere near the end. So I really feel like I'm actually still just starting.
Beginning,
right, I do. So it's, I think, just to be a good person, to be, why I also love real estate is such a people's business.
Yeah.
I love that about the sector.
It's such
Absolutely.
a people's business, and it's a small business. It's just, and if you're a good guy, that's all, and have fun along the way, then that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's true. It's not complicated.
It's not. Yeah. I mean, maybe actually in many, 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 many years, I'll look back and have a different answer. I don't know, but that's certainly how I see it.
Approach
it's just,
things now. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's testament to you as a person.
Thank you.
Because a lot of people would say, oh, I want X billion and whatever under management, and actually when it boils down to it, like, I think that answer is actually an amazing answer, which is just like, be a good person, good things will come off the back of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a number of people that who have done fantastically well for themselves financially just stay grounded and just be a good person.
We ask this to all our guests. If you could reinvent one thing about the real estate industry, what would that be?
One thing.
Well, yeah, it can be multiple.
Good feelings.
Why have you got a whole laundry list?
I mean, I suppose the obvious one is planning. It's so archaic. It's a complete bottleneck. It should absolutely just be defined by planning officers and by what is planning policy, rather than taking it to committee and having lots of people have opinions on things that aren't policy, and it just makes it a real lottery. And it's actually not fair for a number of developers that are not of the size of a Galliard or others, that they can't enter, they want to enter into the market, and there is a huge barrier to the market because they can't afford the time that it's going to cost and the lack of certainty that it's going to. If you follow all the right steps in a planning system, you still won't. You still might not get there, and that's really not fair. So I think we need to have a planning reform, which we have, said and spoke openly numerous times, where we all agree, we all know what the boundaries are, we all know what we've got to build to, and we've all got to do our best to get there. But if it's policy, we try and go to policy, but it really stays with officers rather than spread out, and it will save a lot of time, and it will bring housing, much needed housing to the market.
Interesting what you say as well about planning side of things, because I think people obviously get very frustrated about planning, but I've never thought before about actually why isn't it that the officers just deal with it themselves if it is policy compliant, or there's a policy in place.
Or if it's not policy compliant but you have a viability which explains why something's not policy compliant, then that's also fine. But I just think the notion of then getting an officer approval and going through that rigmarole, which is right, and that's testing, and we're here to build quality places, and you need that officer interaction and that test. It then needs to go to a committee where sometimes it's a lottery, and you spent all that time, all that money. It's just doesn't make sense that it should then go to that next step.
Doesn't make any sense.
And but that's our system.
That is our system at the moment.
So you've got to play by the rules.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, David. It's been so interesting.
Thanks, David. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on. Thanks so much for joining us for the Reinventing Real Estate podcast with David Hirschfield. It's been super insightful. If you are a lawyer who's looking to kind of transition your skills into a new industry, if you're someone who is just looking for the foundations of how to kind of really progress and level up in what you're doing, and you want some advice on how to do it, this is going to be a really exciting episode for you. So make sure you watch the full episode on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube, and make sure you follow us so you don't miss any other episodes coming your way. We have some really exciting ones coming forward. So thanks so much for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.